Dun 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 dun. So Daredevil has been on my mind lately, and I feel like it's worth mentioning I haven't seen this show since 4 years ago. So I figured since Daredevil Born Again is releasing this week, or by the time you're watching this it already has released, why not rewatch all 3 seasons back to back to back and see if the show still holds up, and if it is any good as we remember. So I'm basically gonna be reviewing and revisiting each season, and then give my general thoughts. Now on to season 1, this is just as incredible as I remembered watching it 4 years ago, if not better. I was legit speeding through these episodes whilst being able to take all of the episodes in. Hell, I'm even noticing things I didn't even notice before, which made me love this season even more. And I truly realized how genius of a comic book show this is. Every storyline feels so well balanced and so intriguing and pays off so well. Kingpin aka Wilson Fisk is a genuinely amazing villain played by Vincent D'Onofrio, and in some aspects he kinda reminds me of Tony Soprano in a little bit because of how easily you can kind of love him as a villain, but of how easily you can hate him at the same time. That switch that they do is so amazing. And they're both kind of similar because they're both extremely complex and a bit irredeemable. I even really enjoyed how smooth the writing went for having Wilson Fisk as the puppet master kind of character, pulling all of the strings behind the scenes, whilst in the first few episodes not even showing his face and just hiding in the shadows. I feel like that was so brilliant on building on his menacing and mysterious persona. I say this for each season of Daredevil, but I really feel this way. The show even caught me by surprise at many times, and there were a few moments that genuinely shocked me, which I loved. Aside from all of that, the balance between the prequel kind of story from seeing younger Matt Murdock and the present storyline also, and the build-ups in both stories happening at the same time, and the emotional depth of learning who Matt Murdock is, and learning more about his tragic childhood, and then also seeing his wholesome friendship with Foggy and Karen, and in general the relationships in his life. That's all just so fascinating. The action sequences flat out never disappointed. I honestly forgot how insanely entertaining and greatly choreographed the fight scenes were. It's a good blend into the story as well. In most of early season 1 when Matt had his early black suit and was being really clever and hunting down people in such an investigative manner that helped out the story in court scenes so much in a really smart way. Also, honestly, no wonder people were doubtful that Daredevil was coming into the MCU because there were plenty of harsh beatdowns and so much gory scenes. And even if you don't see it head on, it's so well utilized with the sound effects and the sound design, and it makes you imagine how brutal the scene is. Overall, season 1 of Daredevil is a flat out amazing season, and each episode was just purely solid, and my final rating for season 1 is a 9 out of 10. And one aspect of season 1 which I love too is how every little thing, especially on the other seasons too, is a stepping stone into seeing how Matt Murdock fully transforms into the Daredevil that we know who he is. Season 2 was definitely more entertaining and slightly more enjoyable than Season 1, but it is surely not better than Season 1, honestly. There were too many storylines that could have been coherently better. That's kind of why I like this a little bit less than Season 1. I honestly did not enjoy the Elektra storyline entirely, and I respect the actress Elodie, and I thought Elektra was kind of cool in the third half of the show. But my goodness man, I hated her in this iteration. She was so annoying and so manipulative, and it was so weird how she was pushing Matt Murdock to his boundaries and trying to break his no-kill rule, and I really did not understand how Matt Murdock aka Daredevil was able to tolerate all that. I mean, I find it pretty crazy that Daredevil was acting more harsh on Punisher on the no-kill rule, but then when it came to Elektra, it was kind of like, you cannot kill people, but at the same time, it's like he was being so weird about it. Even though Punisher was killing people who deserved it more than the people that Elektra killed. Speaking of Punisher, man, what a badass character. I genuinely loved his storyline in this season. Incredibly badass character introduction in the hospital scene. He's such a methodical killing machine and he was plowing through in such a satisfying manner. Even with other action sequences with fighting multiple people. For example, the scene where he got tortured by the Irish gang. gang, and then Daredevil was gonna come in to save him. It paid off so well to see him escape so cleverly and not hold back on killing them. It's also probably up to interpretation, but I definitely think that the Punisher found out who Matt Murdock really is, especially in that courtroom scene when Matt Murdock was representing him, and he was standing kind of in front of Frank, and you could see the mannerisms on Frank's face, and by his eyes he has some sort of realization that he is Daredevil. But what really solidified it for me was by the end, when the Punisher was on the rooftop and he was shooting those people from the hand and saving Daredevil while he was unmasked. So there's definitely a strong possibility that he saw him while he was unmasked and he respected his boundaries, and he respected the fact that he was doing it while he's also being a lawyer. As much as some storylines felt a bit too squeezed in and didn't feel that coherent with everything going on, I got to applaud that finale, including the last 3 episodes, man. Even though the first half of the finale, or maybe the middle, was kind of lackluster, and I was kind of thinking, is this the way it's gonna end? It's kind of boring. But it really saved and redeemed itself, and they were able to tie in everything almost perfectly, especially with Punisher in the end helping out Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, tremendously, and Daredevil getting his new suit, and then Daredevil revealing who he is to Karen, and then the saddening departure of Nelson and Murdock. Oh my god, too many good things and too many sad things were happening at the same time, especially after Karen took the job as being a journalist. That was surely some beautiful stuff, man. Overall, season 2 is an 8 out of 10. This season includes some of the best of the best with Daredevil and Punisher, and honestly, even though the season is not better than season 1, it still has some 9 out of 10 episodes, and the action sequences definitely improved too in general in some aspects. And an honorable mention to that scene when Matt Murdock met Fisk in prison. Both performances by Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio in that scene was so groundbreaking, and the writing in that scene was just phenomenal. And another small honorable mention, storyline wise, the Hand storyline was cool, but as I said, it definitely could have been handled better and it deserved a more satisfying finale. Now on to season 3. This was absolute peak cinema of a final season, even though there might have been plans for a season 4, but the way things ended was so perfect, and it counts as a final season either way. It's a bit surprising that I ended up loving the show much more, especially this season, because season 3, I'm just gonna say my season 3 rating is a 10 out of 10. I did not expect it to love it this much, even better than I did the first time I watched it, but a lot of moments really surprised me and they hooked me with every storyline. Season 3 was just on such a flow state, being consistently and constantly good with every single episode. It was so excellent and amazingly well written. The season wasn't jam-packed with too many storylines, it had the right amount, and there was a clear-cut end goal. And since the start of the season, it was not only the rise and fall of Wilson Fisk as the Kingpin, it just played out so smartly like a big chess game against Matt Murdock, especially with Fisk manipulating the entire city with the best of his abilities, and corrupting a bunch of cops too, and the FBI. And I best not forget the rise of Bullseye, aka Ben Poindexter, the Daredevil villain who Fisk acquired, who Bullseye eventually turned on him. But this season is also about the events that happen after the Defenders, which I should mention that I have not seen but I'm planning to watch after, even though I understand most of the events that happen in the Defenders and what led to Matt Murdock ending up in that explosion, and then him being cured and healed at the church in the first 3 episodes of season 3, and he was just so down on his luck and he was losing so much faith in religion. So I found it so beautiful that by the very end in the finale, after all of the insanity that happened and all of the beatings that he took, he found peace at the end. And I like to interpret that he got closer to God again. Aside from all of that, back onto how jaw-dropping the writing in this season is. One character storyline which I unironically loved and thought it was such a great addition to the story was Special Agent Nadeem. He's just a bit complex. A man who we see in the beginning supporting his family and sister-in-law who is now cancer-free, and we're seeing him as a loving and easygoing father and husband who also is a bit struggling on his money, whilst at the same time is working for the FBI. Therefore, you already grow some sort of sympathy for him, so it's so interesting that someone like him can unexpectedly help a story like this flow so well, and unexpectedly actually make you care for him while you're seeing him fall for the traps of Wilson Fisk. Then by the end be the missing puzzle piece that helps put Fisk away tremendously. even though he died. Another character I really grown fond of and loved even much more than the first time I watched the show, and was so fascinated to see their character arc play out, was Special Agent Ben Poindexter, aka Bullseye. Man, did they treat his character so well. This show and this season is already filled with so much tragic characters, and Poindexter is just another one. A broken man who's super skillful with perfect precision, even at a young age. Ben Poindexter, who lost his parents at a very young age at the same time too, and then got attached to his therapist, who did a very good job at helping him progress with his mental illness. Then even throughout the season at his grown present age, his mental stability just goes out of hand, and he's such a perfect psychotic antagonist. And it's so shocking to see the insane acts that Fisk pulls off just to mess with Bullseye, and just to play everything in his cards in secret, just for Poindexter to fall into his traps and make him work for him. It really messed up Poindexter and made him lose his mind. So it was absolutely satisfying to see Daredevil help Bullseye see who Fisk really is and what Fisk did to Bullseye behind his back, and then going on to see Bullseye turn onto Fisk in the finale, where it's a 1v1v1 with Daredevil. Back onto how beautifully perfect this season is, man. Not only is it brutally satisfying and a much darker and grittier story and season, it is still so much different than seasons 1 and 2. It heavily improved on many aspects technical wise and cinematography wise. One of my biggest underlying issues with season 1 and 2 is how dark the show can be lighting wise. It just gets a bit frustrating and a bit annoying. I know Daredevil is a nighttime character and works best like that, but at least utilize that to your best of your abilities. And they definitely did in season 3, and I am so glad that they did. The lighting is much better, and they put him in action-packed scenarios where he has to fight in well lit up rooms and set pieces. And in general, season 3 cinematography wise looks genuinely fantastic in every scene, even the nighttime scenes as well. Honorable mentions to the performances all around in season 3, they were all genuinely excellent and just groundbreaking stuff. From Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, and even other actors like Wilson Bethel as Bullseye, and Eldon Henson as Foggy, and Deborah Ann Wool as Karen Page, as well as Jay Ellie as Special Agent Nadeem. Just incredible performances all around. Best performances out of all 3 seasons. Truly. Overall, season 3 is perfect. It is entirely a masterpiece. We got to see a lot of things come to fruition this season, like Foggy's meat business and Karen working more as a journalist. And then by the end, they all get back together after they found their peace, after all the craziness that just happened. That was so freaking perfect. But in general, this season was endlessly entertaining at every turn, man. Whether it was that action-packed, brutally satisfying and well-played finale, or unique aspects like in the first few episodes when Fisk was haunting Matt as a ghost/hallucination-esque type of aspect. Either way, this was so beautifully well written and was so shocking and so anxiety inducing, and is incredibly well balanced in intensity and suspense throughout the entire season. And my overall rating, as I said again, is a 10 out of 10. This is like the equivalency of Twin Peaks The Return for Daredevil, or even Dexter season 4. Each episode was just a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. Everything was just so smart and so entertaining, and subverts your expectations in the best ways possible. And the verdict is, I loved Daredevil even more upon rewatch, and it is solidified in my heart as the greatest comic book TV show of all time. And I should mention I'm only talking about live action comic book TV shows. Either way, I am incredibly looking forward for Daredevil Born Again, and I really hope that it could be better than the Netflix show, but season 3 is such a high bar to beat. And overall, Daredevil is a flat out masterpiece. Honestly, when I was planning to rewatch Daredevil, I was a bit doubtful, and I was thinking this is probably just gonna be good or great even. I did not expect it to be nowhere near 9 or 10 out of 10. Maybe 9 out of 10 would have been believable, but it completely caught me by surprise in the best ways possible. And I should mention the only Netflix Marvel TV shows that I have seen before was the Daredevil TV show and the Punisher TV show as well. I'm probably not gonna be rewatching Punisher anytime soon, but I genuinely loved rewatching Daredevil. It was such a phenomenal and beautiful experience. And if you haven't seen Daredevil in a while, I highly urge you to rewatch it. And besides that, another reason why I'm rewatching Daredevil is also because I'm gonna be meeting Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio at Middle East Film and Comic Con at Abu Dhabi. So now upon rewatch, I genuinely can't wait to meet Charlie Cox again for the third time, and I'll be meeting Vincent D'Onofrio for the first time. And as you can see, this was from my second time meeting Charlie Cox in Fan Expo Chicago. I sadly did not get a photo, but I got an autograph, and he signed my She-Hulk Daredevil kind of Funko Pop. You probably can't see it, but it says, "My ass remains unwhooped." That is such a funny line. And yeah, Daredevil fans, Marvel fans, and general fans of my YouTube channel, I'll see you guys next time. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button if you enjoyed.